Yeah, it's a couple minutes after. Let's get going. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Not bad. You look good today. My name is Keith Locke. Just a very quick, brief background on who I am, how I got to be here. Oh, hi.
Hello.
Take the picture. Just a wave. Anyway, I've got a background. I'm a magician by trade. I started when I was 9 years old. As a professional magician, led into an entire career of show production and a lot of fun stuff. Around the time of getting into magic as a kid, I also got into doing haunted house design. The typical thing, I'm sure, the same story as all of you folks, starting out decorating your yard or your front room or whatever for trick-or-treaters and the likes. And Alan E. Rush. Old friend. Anyhow, I was really fortunate because I had the opportunity to help out in some amateur haunts as a kid, designing a classroom, at an elementary school, led into the JCs, led into an awful lot of other types of things in show production and the like. And then I got into full-time show production as a career, and I now currently own Magical Arts and Design. We're based in Orlando, Florida. We do all different types of corporate show production, as well as showroom production for casinos and resorts and the like, all kinds of different things. But there's nothing better than going back to my roots, and that's doing a great haunted house. And I'm a purist. I'm not a big fan of the haunts that are set up in strip malls and the like, but you know what? It's part of our business today. And so I consult and I work with groups that are intending to take their haunts to the next level, and we do everything we can to help in those regards. What I'm going to do today is talk about the business plan behind a haunted house. And as with anything in business, for those of you that know, perhaps own a business or what have you, without a business plan, it's like trying to find somewhere without a map. And it's just very, very, very important that you put all this together. The world of haunt has changed. I've been doing it for 35 years. And it used to be when we showed up, it's like, what's a haunted house? They didn't know. Well, now it's an industry. You all know that it's second to Christmas when it comes to the dollars. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry that you folks are all part of. And I know that I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but to get to that success level where you are making the big dollars in haunt and also providing a great show, it takes a plan. You can have all the creative ideas up here, but there's a method to getting them from up here to where you want it to be, and that's when you open their doors to the public, okay? We're in a kind of a weird situation right here because there's a lot of faces here with a lot of different backgrounds. So I'm just gonna be very broad, and what I wanna do is I wanna speak for probably about just only maybe 25 to 30 minutes, and then open up the floor to questions or comments or whatever. But before we get into that, if I could have a show of hands, how many of you folks actually own a haunted house that's been operating for the past few years at least? Oh, very good. Okay, cool. How many of you have never owned a haunted house, don't even know why you're in Pittsburgh today, and you just showed up because you heard that, I don't know, anybody? Alan E. Rush, of course, we know that. Okay, all right. Well, that's interesting. And then there's the rest of you that kind of fit in the middle somewhere. Your actors, your crew members. Like this gentleman I just had the opportunity to speak with for a few minutes. You've been an actor, correct? You were a narrator on a hayride and the likes, and now you've got that bug. It's in you. That virus is creeping up your legs. You've got to own your own haunt because you have nothing better to do for the rest of your life. Good man, okay? It can be the best thing in the world, it can be the most discouraging thing in the world. It's about having balls, it's about having guts, and it's about knowing what the heck you're doing. Because at any given point, at any given time, whether it's a banker or the fire marshal or the whomever, if someone's gonna throw a question at you, you've gotta know what you're talking about. So don't rush into anything. Be very, very calculated. It's one of the first things that I can try to share with you guys, okay? Being in this business for so long, and believe me, I've been through the ups and the downs. It's just been crazy. I was fortunate early on because we just put on a show, and I was just telling this young lady, we did an insane asylum in '89 in the Philadelphia area called the Haunted Mansion in Byberry, and we built it in 8 days. And because it had notoriety as the Erie edifice in Northeast Philadelphia all those years, we had 28,000 people show up. And with minimal advertising likes. The second year there, we had 48,000 show up. We got into corporate sponsorships. The third year there, we did 61,000 all in 3 weeks, 3 hours a night operating. $10 a head. Do the arithmetic. But the first year was luck. The second year was planning. The third year was more planning. Now I'm dealing with major corporations. I'm dealing with Fortune 100s like Pepsi and Coke and Tombstone Pizzas and all those types of people. You're dealing with some very, very, very sharp individual to get to that point. Now, that being said, there's nothing wrong with doing a haunt where your expected attendance is 500 people. Great, it's 500 people, you know. If it's 5,000 or 50,000, whatever else, that's all part of the master plan. You have to figure out where you're at. There's those people out there that just love doing it for the sake of doing it. They'll spend their money, all their money, to have a haunt. In some cases they want to make it back, some cases they're just throwing a big party for the whole community, okay? And then there's those people that do it professionally and whatever. How many of you guys are sitting here today because you're here because you want to make more money? And this is an Amway, don't worry about it. All right, cool. How many of you seriously are here because you're here just for the love of the haunt? Very good, okay? Well, I see a lot of crossover there too. That's interesting. Yeah. We put together my company, which is called Mad Haunted Productions, based off of Magical Arts and Design, which is my parent company. Mad Haunted Productions. We put together something last year called Control Freak. I was speaking at another convention, as I mentioned, last year, and a gentleman, one of the partners of that, came to me afterward, and he said, could we sit down? I said, sure. He wound up hiring me and my company as a consultant to come in as executive producers. I'm going to use last year, because it's the freshest thing on my mind, as an example of the good, the bad, and the ugly of what can take place when you don't have a good business plan, okay? I've got to give kudos to this gentleman, because this gentleman knew that he didn't have a good business plan. He'd been in his venue up in the Long Island area for the 2 years prior to that, and the most they ever did was admissions of, I think, like 7,000 people. It was like only $30,000 was their gross on the thing. I mean, I didn't get it, but anyhow, I have to always remember, when we started consulting for them, they came to us as experts, and that's what we provided. If you folks if you're a haunt operator, and you enlist somebody, the first thing I got to tell you is, believe what they say. You've made the decision to hire them, okay, as a consultant or whatever field they're in. Have faith and trust in them, okay? And everything else. Look at their credentials. Make sure they know what they're talking about. Make sure they have the experience level, the contacts, and everything else that's required. And the people that you're dealing with, make sure they know how to talk to the local politicians and the fire marshals and everybody else, okay? Because otherwise you're just going to be spinning your own wheels and going in all different types of directions. So it's just really important that you get your team, you assemble your team good. Now we're going to get into how to make all this happen. It's got to happen on paper first. It's got to happen, well, first it happens up here, then it gets to paper. That's a business plan, okay? Have you done business plans, anybody? A couple of you? Cool, okay. All right, well, this is the way mine work, and I'm not going to profess to say it's the only way. It's not the only way at all. I am a performer. I like getting in front of my target audiences and selling it verbally and through videotape and the like, okay? Speaking of which, I'm just going to do this real quick here. Can you guys see up there? Okay, good. I apologize for that. Now that was, oh, by the way, before I go any further, the gentleman that you just saw in our theme for last year, it was Slim Chance, the proprietor of an evil carnival operation. We've got in the audience today, Slim Chance. You want to stand up, say hi real quick, Rusty? Ladies and gentlemen, Rusty Bowling. I called him 2 days ago and I said, I think Leonard needs me up in Philadelphia, or in Pittsburgh. You want to take a ride? And he says, let's go. So here we are. So anyhow, the reason why I just showed you that is because it's about vision first, okay? And it's about the articulation of the vision that will get you to the next step. You have to, if you can't do it yourselves, don't be afraid to enlist the help of somebody that knows how to write and knows how to work with all this kind of stuff. But the first thing you do, get the thoughts in your mind. What is this haunt going to be about? And start writing it down. And then get your team together and have your creative sessions. Have all that worked out, all the verbal stuff. Throw the ideas around and everything this, okay? Remember I told you I'm going to give you a one sentence secret to everything? Okay, the secret to everything with this is to work backwards. That's the whole key. Think of what it's going to be like, because you made the comment they got done, or was it you, young lady? You got done the haunt, and you have all this stuff, and then you don't have anywhere to put it. No trucks, no trailers, nothing worked out, okay? That's part of what a business plan helps you do. And it also has to have the capability to show other people what it is that you're doing, because you're going to get asked those questions, and you've got to have those answers. Here's what I have found that works. We put together this program. It's called Control Freak. And this is based on 35 years plus experience, okay? Unfortunately, with the last minute of all this kind of stuff, this is an automated program on the computer that my company put together. I'm not really able to piece you through it on here, but I'm just going to use this as kind of some quick references to things. By starting at the end and working backwards, literally, do your write down everything you think you need. Thank you letters. People don't think about thank you letters. By November 1st, generally, we're all so exhausted, beat. The last thing we want to do is thank you letters. You can do them now. Do them in January or in June or whatever. Do them now and just fill in the blanks later. Okay, we provide all that with this thing that we're still working on those elements. But the point is, whatever it is, the thank you cast parties at the end, the whatever, get all this down, write everything out, and then start fitting it to a computer or to a calendar. So you have a timeline of how all this stuff has to play out, okay? And because you guys are creatives, I don't know of anybody, is there anybody here that's strictly just a business brain? No, we're all creatives, we're all nutcases, right? So I think visually the best thing to do with your team is list everything down that you possibly can. Think of everything that you can, okay? Then you start formulating that. I think it's better to put together a production plan before you put together a business plan, and then go back to the production plan, and then you can go back and forth, okay? One of the things that happened last year, they had never done a production plan or a business plan before. I went up and I sat with the partners, and they didn't have a budget at all, nothing to work with. So we used this, and we went through, and you know, the two guys that I was working with, great guys, but zero background in finance and everything else. And you know, without money, nothing much happens in this country of ours, right? So make sure that you're protected all the way through. You have to know what you're going to need. And don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to you, because you know it's kind of like this. And this might ring true. Say, oh, we really don't need a first aid kit. No one ever gets hurt. You know what I'm saying? You have to be prepared, because that first aid kit may save you from a $10,000 to $12,000 to $120,000 lawsuit or whatever else, because sometimes you just put a Band-Aid on somebody and they feel better and they're all good to go, okay? You gotta think through everything. If you don't have that level of experience to even think about that, if that thought just came to somebody for the first time after I said it, you gotta find somebody to talk to hold your hand, to walk you through the rest of the process, okay? Or be an apprentice to an ongoing haunt, which is generally the way it all works, right? So here are some of the categories that are, excuse me, I'm going blind in my old age here. Some of the things I just want you to, if it applies to you, make a note to it, okay, that just may help you out through all this. These are the main categories of things to talk about, okay? This is what we call the hierarchy design flow. There's the sponsors to consider, the venue, of course, the concessions. If I go too fast, I'm sorry, I don't have too much time. Inventory, cast, marketing, crew, administrative, operations, health and safety, box office, event information, rides, shows, games, contacts. That's the first level of how we dig, okay? You go down to the second level, this gets spread out. You guys can make these on your own, all right? So you go to the first one. The first one, of course, is sponsors. So then you're going to list off the company name, who they are, where they're located, of course, all contact information, their product, their services. Because without the right plans, you may go to Coca-Cola